putting things on a computer or a device that you're bargaining for. Okay. Applications and cloud vulnerabilities. Let's jump into that. So we're talking about web application attacks, things that can happen on a web browser or in a web application. Cross-site scripting is where we can create a different site, but as at the same time put scripts within the site that allow for certain commands to be ran. And so it may mirror a particular site, like the ones that I showed you, and I'll show it again in our next class. But I'll show it shows kind of like a phishing site, so it's a mirror one for one site. But when you click on certain um, features within that fake site, it may have some scripts that's hidden in that particular web browser that run in the background on your PC. And so that's why it's so important to look for the cues on these fake sites to make sure that you're not on a place that's, doesn't have a certificate, not using HTTPS, looks weird. Maybe the URL is not written correctly. If you see these cues, then it's not only is it important to not put information into it, it's also important not to really click on anything because they could be running something in the background. Okay. Same thing when it comes to SQL injection. So this is where a hacker can do some research and be able to understand that there's a SQL database, or they're going to take a wild guess that it's a SQL database collecting all the username and passwords from the username and password section of a web browser, and they're gonna put a SQL, they're gonna inject some type of SQL command in those fields to try to get some information back. Due to the fact that with the, hopefully with the commands in the way that it was set up, that it was set up in a misconfigured way or a defaulted way in order to spill some information back. Okay, so we want to be aware of that when it comes to creating our SQL databases, making sure your database team is doing things properly and securely to avoid these type of attacks that may happen. All right, cloud-based application attacks. So these attacks could be just targeted to a particular application on a cloud platform, um, and you need to be able to understand in your threat fees if these applications are pertaining to your security applications or the application stacks that you have for your company, right? In order to understand that, like I said, have your feeds or understanding where you're going for real live information. It'll be important to understand that, and then once you see those applications that may fall in your realm, then you take the precautions that you need to take in order to keep the business safe. One of those precautions could be a security broker or a CASB, right? So a cloud asset security broker sits in between the user, the device user, and then the cloud provider. So that cloud provider could be anything, right? Um, I'm going to use box.com as the cloud provider, and it's sitting between you. So that CASB is sit on your computer. And whenever you drag a file from your computer up to box.com, that CASB will scan it to make sure that there's nothing sensitive going out. Or if it is, then it makes sure that it checks this list to make sure that it's proper to actually leave. Um, Security brokers, I haven't seen too many places with a robust system of a CASB already set up and running. The places that I've been are looking to get further into that, but they haven't really have a mature model of it just yet. Supply chain. So a supply chain could be a vulnerability that's waiting to happen, right? We talked about the ransomware attack that shut down the whole East Coast of America, where they couldn't really get any kind of gas anywhere, right? So that's a supply chain type of vulnerability. If you're doing something and that process in the business is relying on one supplier, one particular supplier, then guess what? Like we said before, this is a single point of failure. If that supplier goes down or is attacked themselves, while nothing happened to you and your company, it does reduce your supply of whatever you're getting from them. And so now we have to either find a alternate or we just have to be without until they're able to get back up and running. And then you need to think about what information do they have of you and your company that for them to be hacked or data leaked or whatever the case may be, what do they get from you in order and let that slip out the back door? So those things you need to keep those things in mind when it comes to your supply chain. You more than likely you want more than one. But the caveat to that is that you need to understand how much of a budget you have and then what can we actually do with it. So this is where the planning goes on at. When you're planning for recovery or continuity within the business or recovery when it comes to disaster, these things come into play and you need to, be open-minded with the type of supplies that you get and then run that stuff up the chain to make sure that everybody is okay with it, they sign off on it and be able to have it in their back pocket for whenever, a problem does arise. All right, identifying the vulnerabilities. How do we actually figure out that we have vulnerabilities on our PCs and on our servers? 9 times out of 10, it's going to be done with scanning. So there's two big players in the scanning market that I know of, and that'll be Rapid7 and Nessus, or I'm sorry, there's another one, and that's Qualys. And we'll take a look at those um, tomorrow. But those three are going to be able to have systems that sit on our network in different spots and be able to scan the network and see different workstations and servers that are connected to um, our actual network. And then on top of that, they can see what patches that they have received and what applications they have. Now, they can make changes of pushing different patches there, um, but it takes more. I thought it takes more of a authenticating piece to do that. So a lot of times you'll see people who are working with the Windows servers push patches out via Intune or WSUS, which is WSUS. And it's it's kind of is it varies from shop to shop or from business to business on how they actually want to go about doing it. But um, to finish up on this slide, you can actually get one of these tools and be able to basically tell what PC needs these things. And based off of the scans that you run, you could tell if things are severe or not, right? Based off the scoring. And we'll go off the scoring later. Um, like I already named, Nessus is a free vulnerability scanner. Now you have to set it up in a virtual box, but or some type of server, but it is free for those that are willing to go about actually trying to download it and then install it. Uh, OpenVAS is more on the web browser and vulnerability uh, domain. So they're going to look at those web browsers, websites, and then have a list that they compare them to see exactly what is vulnerable and then what is not. Threat feeds. Now, I already kind of said that, you should have some type of threat feeds going on. And a lot of times I see these coming from the actual cybersecurity companies. such as a Semantic or a Broadcom. Um, Rapid 7 would have some. You could get them. It's pretty much anybody who's offering a security tool probably has some type of RSS feed that they're probably, giving updates on what's out there in the wild, what to look for, things of that nature. Um, I honestly think that the best place to go to for up to date, real up to date feeds is Twitter or X, or however you wanna call it. But it's a community of cybersecurity analysts and engineers out there that's already just sharing information. I think the first time that I've heard of not know before, but Log4j is something that we had, I think, like last year around this time. Log4j, I found it out on Twitter versus any RSS feed that I got going to my inbox. And so, while it's not professional, but it is on time in real time, and that's where the people are at. So sometimes that's where it kind of it rules what's going on. Now, some good places that you can go and see some threat feeds are listed here. IBM, the FireEye website is pretty good. Recorded Future, I've seen and worked with them a couple of years ago. Proofpoint is always a good leader when it comes to even